Welcome everybody. Today we have Fred Camillo, First Selectman of Greenwich, and who is up for re-election on November 2nd. We're so excited to be here talking to him today about Greenwich, his re-election, and his views for real estate in Greenwich and going forward. Thank you, Fred, so much for being here.
Thank you, Mike. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
So the real estate market in Greenwich has been absolutely on fire. I am a broker with Compass in Greenwich, and it's a hot topic for everyone. There's many topics in your re-election campaign and that you go over about what you've done in the past. I have to say for myself and a lot of residents and real estate agents, thank you so much for your service this past year, getting us through the most difficult time in U.S. history with this pandemic and doing so well for us. Okay. What do you have in the plans going forward to keeping this real estate market so hot, specifically in Greenwich?
You know, it's a great question. See, the things that have worked well, the silver linings that we went after when COVID started, we really didn't want to get sidetracked with our agenda when we got elected and took office in December of 2019.
Yeah.
But also when the pandemic hit, we thought, how could we not only just get through this, but how could we come out of it even stronger, more effective and more efficient, making Greenwich even more of a destination. So, you know, things like that attracts people, things like outdoor dining, pedestrian-friendly neighborhoods. We're looking at bump outs of intersections and crosswalks where there are none. We're looking at sidewalks, including over in Old Greenwich right now, where there are none. And those aren't easy tasks. They seem easy, but they're guidelines and protocols you have to follow. So we're working with the neighborhoods and with our departments here and engineers. So we want to show the new people moving here that, yes, we are fiscally responsible. I think the last 2 years, our mill rate increase was about zero each time.
Yep.
But we also want to show that we're putting points on the board and that we're doing so by looking to things like public-private partnerships, which was one of my pledges in 2019. And we've done a lot of them so far, including the biggest we've ever done by double, which was $5 million for the Eastern Greenwich Civic Center, which hopefully will be approved tonight by the Greenwich RTM. So we want to just show people that you know, they bought here because of the way the town was run, because of its proximity to New York City. It's one of the few towns that's got a hospital. It's got a great school system, beautiful parks. So we want to make sure that we've increased that. And you know, we certainly by getting another 73 acres of open space, which now totals over 800 acres. You know, certainly there's lots to do, plenty of hiking for people. It's a very active community, and we want to keep putting those points on the board. And so I think that will keep the real estate market, I don't know if it'll go up as quickly as it did, but certainly Greenwich has always been, historically, has been a great investment. If you stack it up against the stock market, it actually more than holds its own over time. So the last year really did catch on fire, but we hope to keep those who moved here, keep them here, and still be a beacon for others that are considering moving to Connecticut.
Absolutely. And it's unanimous pretty much that your job that you've done for the Greenwich market and the real estate market has been well received. We've talked about this on our podcast before when you were on, how much of a surprisingly hidden gem Greenwich has been with its value, with everything from its taxes to the fact that it has its beach, the fact you have backcountry properties and the size and how much downtown has to offer. Talk to me a little bit about what the plan is implementing going forward to keep the taxes so attractive, the fact that everybody's coming here from its Westchester, New York City, or coming back from Florida, or looking at Greenwich as the destination and looking at the taxes for what they're buying and saying, my gosh, this is such a great deal. Mm-hmm. What are we doing going forward to maintain the low tax?
Look, continuing to focus on those public-private partnerships, because that does give the taxpayer a break. It defrays, you know, it diminishes the cost that we would have to put out. You know, rather than paying $21 million for a new Eastern Greenwich Civic Center, right off the bat, you minus $5 million of that. But we set up a chip chart, and so we're going to be putting up naming opportunities for the two gyms, for the front entranceway, for the cafe, yep, for the courtyard. So there's a plan in place to reach out to any and all citizens who want to contribute monetarily to the town that they live in and a town that they love. And again, it's something that Greenwich didn't do in the past, but I really, you know, said that I was focused on it, and they're embracing it now, which is a great thing. And certainly going forward, that will help fund a lot of these projects.
Yep.
And keep the costs down
Yep.
to the taxpayer.
So you've been a lifelong Greenwich resident, and you have also been a business owner here. So you've seen the highs and the lows of the town and gone through it. There are a lot of people that want to move into the town that this is maybe a problem that they haven't seen for a long time. It's almost lack of certain housing. So you've seen builders and developers trying to find land and build, but the cost of building is so expensive now. And also the fears of the permitting process and the zoning and what it's like at the town. Is there anything that you're putting in place or going to do that can help alleviate some of that process or speed for builders and developers to kind of get projects done?
The Office of First Selectman certainly has about maybe 30% of the town's workforce under the authority of the First Selectman. That leaves about 70% that's not. They report to independent boards and commissions and committees. But that said, even those departments in those areas that are not within the jurisdiction of the First Selectman, you're an advocate, and we have a good working relationship with them, those department heads and those the employees of those departments. So, it's just a continuing dialogue to see how you can get them to work more together and not in silos.
Sure.
That's an issue, I think, in every town in America.
Yep.
And so we're working on that now. In fact, with DPW, they're hopefully going to be getting this software system online where if you apply for a permit and you have all these departments checking off, they'll all be, you'll be able to see what you've done and what you need to get checked off, but the other departments can see what's left. Because what I found over the years is that somebody be ready to move into a house, getting there, waiting for the CO, and then out of the blue, the sewer division will say, hey, not so fast. And then there's another 4-week delay, and that drives people crazy. So that's always been the case. So we're working on hopefully in the coming term to remedy that.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Kind of automating the system, because so many people approach the towning, permitting, zoning process as archaic sometimes, and they're just bracing for the impact of how many delays it's going to put. And if we can be in the forefront of making it automated and easier, and in the fact that there's so much demand for building and real estate out here right now. I mean, just from a real estate perspective, we used to deal with 88 to 90 months of inventory. Now we're down to like 6 months of inventory.
Wow.
I mean, it's just, there's nothing. We're logjam with buyers that want to come into the town, and they're like, well, find me anything. And builders, find me anything. We're ready to go. And there's just the demand. But it's hard because when you have, high demand and low inventory, the pricing of land goes up and everything. And the big stipulation has always been, well, we want to build then in the town of Greenwich. We have healthy bank accounts. We want to build something, but what's this permitting process going to be? I know what it's like with the town. But if we can be in the forefront of that, like you're saying, that's huge. That's a great thing.
It is. And we're also, keeping our eye on the building. So, when someone comes in, they want to knock something down and build something better.
Right.
We're very supportive. I do worry a little bit about open space. If someone buys a lot that had soil and now it's going to have concrete, that will exacerbate the flooding issue, which every town is going through now.
Yep.
So we have to keep an eye on that. And I've spoken with planning and zoning, even though that's not within the jurisdiction of the First Selectman. We do speak all the time, and they're super supportive of keeping the Greenwich neighborhoods, the character of the Greenwich neighborhoods, and keeping that intact, but also, keeping the town out of court, because, developers, if they get something denied, some will sue, and you want to make sure you're on solid ground. So they really have a tough job, but we encourage people to improve their property, because not only does it help them, it helps the neighborhood. It also makes the grand list a little bit bigger.
Sure.
But I do, as far as adding new, impervious surface, where there was soil and grass,
right,
that is a concern, and so we have to keep an eye on that. So it's a balance.
Right, got it. So the school system, always one of the best in the state, always one of the best in the nation. It's always talked about, whether it's the public schools or the private schools. What about possible that infrastructure going forward in the town to continue to make the appeal of Greenwich even better?
Sure, and you mentioned schools, and that's why do people move to Greenwich? Well, they move to it for the proximity to New York City. They move to it for our beautiful park system. They moved to it possibly because we have a good hospital here, but they also moved to it because of our school system. And so we always want to improve that and make sure now, that we're able to compete not only with other towns, but also with the private schools. And we're really, happy and, thrilled that we have so many great private schools. But, as a kid who went to Catholic school and public school, you never want to see the public schools lag behind anything. So it's, whether it's the actual physical building or, the teachers or the admin staff, we have good ratios, teacher to student, staff to student. So you want to keep that up, but you also want to see where you can, buttress what's maybe a little bit shaky. Our test scores, you want them to be number one.
Sure.
I think we slipped a little bit. We're way up there, at the top, but we may have been fifth, we're maybe eighth. You want to make that, fifth to third, to second to first. And so unless you're in first place, there's always work to do. And so combining, the schools with everything else, you have to, the old adage, spend money to make money.
Sure.
Just want to spend it wisely. And,
sure.
and I think everybody is really in agreement on that. They just don't always have
I think everybody wants to see the school system do well. Sure.
Yeah, they just don't have an agreement on
Sure.
well, how much do you spend
How do you
and
get
where
there?
do you spend it?
Exactly. Land acquisition. You kind of talked about that before. So there's 800 acres, I believe, that Greenwich owns. 73 acres have been purchased under your leadership. What's the philosophy behind that, and what are you looking to do for your second term?
Sure. Green space, Greenwich is always, the green in Greenwich. Greenwich has always been a town that's looked at as not a city, even though some look at it as a small city. It's 63,500 people. We have great beaches. We have shoreline, backcountry, as we mentioned before in a private conversation. There's so much green space here, but you have to, anytime you can get more and enhance and increase the hiking trails, you want to have an active citizenry. The Teddy Roosevelt philosophy about the strenuous life. You want to be active. You don't want to be sedentary, and it has so many benefits in addition to quality of life. It's health and keeping people out of our emergency rooms and hospital rooms, and part of that is diet. Part of that is exercise. So we want to make sure that there's always venues for them to exercise. And as a hiker and a kayaker, we're just blessed to be on the water. But those 73 acres we just acquired, we haven't got the trails in yet, but they will be coming shortly. And it's just another area for people to walk, take their dogs, and it keeps the air clean. You have more and more trees that are not being chopped down. And again, with the flooding issue we've seen recently, you want to keep that soil and not have that turn to concrete, because again, it just will exacerbate what is becoming a real problem all over the place, and not just here.
It's a great segue into flooding and water. We're seeing record storms all the time. I was a victim of one of these storms, lost my whole lower level of my house and everything like that. It's been absolutely crazy. What, if anything, what do you do, or what can you do as a town and in your position to help alleviate some of the stress some of these residents are having with, thank God I put that generator in, but I was very close on that one. I might not be close on the next one with losing half my house or something like that.
Yeah, when you get a 5-year flood, 9 inches in 9 hours, that's not much you can do about that. Tonight we're monitoring another storm coming in, so we'll be after the RTM meeting. We'll be monitoring that all night. We have put together a task force, and we're visiting different parts of the town and seeing where and whenever we can resolve that. Now, we also want to be transparent and also get a good faith estimate of what it will cost to fix those areas.
Yeah.
Some areas, there may not be a fix. Some we think there is.
Yeah.
And so I want to present the RTM and the BET with a factual, well thought out and researched plan and cost estimate of what it will take to fix it. Now, it's, again, whether it's, widening the culverts and looking at the drainage system. I think every once in a while every town has to do that and look at it. And it's expensive, and a lot of towns cringe because it becomes in the hundreds of millions of dollars, in some cases billions, to fix it. And so, you want to say, but likewise, you also want to make sure that going forward, you want to be mitigating these circumstances by having policies in place that, keep them in mind the fact that you don't want to keep adding impervious surfaces where there was grass and soil, because especially in areas that are, prone to flooding, it just makes it worse. So while we encourage people to improve their properties, I've had private conversations with zoning officials just about, hey, in the future, thinking about maybe adding a green space component to each application that comes into the building. I know a lot of people say, well, it's my land, I'll do what I want with it. And we all have a little bit of that in us, but sure. I think we also know and have seen, again, just how powerful the force of water is. And so no sense buying a home if you know down the road that you're going to lose your low level, and in most cases, it's not covered.
Right.
And it's a big hit to take, and especially some people who are maybe house rich and income poor, that's a big, big setback.
Yeah. So with all the real estate that has been sold and bought in this past year and a half, record numbers, prices going through the roof, we're kind of seeing a little bit of a plateauing out, which should be happening. It's actually healthy. It does. Going into the second term that you have here, do you take any of that into effect that I'm going to guess the population has grown? You have all these influx of people. Is there anything that you put in place to say, hey, listen, we might have a different body of people now here? Do you do anything more with that now that there's more people in the town?
Sure. Well, a question came up today about how do you reach the new people?
Yeah.
And they're moving here for various reasons. So it's obvious they like Greenwich, but also you need to show them what's going on now and what you have planned in the future, and also get their input on some things. And they may come from a town or a city where the architecture is very different.
Yeah.
And you see that. You see that different parts of the state. And Greenwich, luckily has that old school feel to it.
Sure.
But also, we encourage people to renovate and to modernize, but to do so hopefully with the character of the neighborhood in mind. And I think most do. I really do. I think in the early 70s there was a brief period where some buildings went up, and it was all over the country. There was the modern architecture,
yep.
And it didn't fit, and you could see those houses and they stick out. And luckily, it's like the baseball stadiums. In the early 90s, they started going back to the retro look with the Camden Yards in Baltimore.
Sure.
And now they all do. Very few are not built. They decreased capacity, and the fans are closer to the fields. And I love that. I love the old look and the old feel. But in the early 70s, they had these big circular antiseptic, round stadiums like Riverfront and Three Rivers and AstroTurf, and they all looked the same. And they weren't very nice, but they've gone away. So again, that touched here a little bit in the early 70s, but thank God not for that long. So you see some remnants of it, but we want to show people that you moved here for a reason, but we also want to grow with you and with their input. And so I've met a lot of people that really are receptive to that and want to get involved. So you want to make sure Greenwich grows, and that the people coming here, they bring all their positive attributes. So I don't look at it as a negative.
Yeah. With also this influx of people wanting to buy and not having a lot of the single family houses, but the interest rates being so low, so people can afford to buy houses, but they're just not available. There's a lot of people trying to develop condos, multifamily, townhouses. What's the stance going to be going forward on someone who's saying, you know what, this might not be zoned for it right now, but I really think there needs to be a proposal for apartment buildings, multifamilies. A lot of towns really want to shy away from that because of some of the kind of stipulation or what it's perceived as. What's your take on something like that for the town?
Well, it depends how it's done. If it's done as scattered housing, I think that's fine. I mean, our Greenwich Housing Authority, which changed its name to Greenwich Communities, has a different philosophy. In the past, they built. The thought was to build big apartment complexes, and we had 3 here in town.
Yeah.
Now they buy scattered sites and they incorporate them into the neighborhood.
Yeah, that's
so you don't know any difference. And then the complexes we have that are still standing are being totally redone to make them look like they're private homes. And it really is nice, and the people love it. And so there's a totally different philosophy now on that, which thank God Greenwich Communities is doing a terrific job. And they have a partner in the Office of First Selectman, and certainly Planning and Zoning has worked well with them. So we're really excited about that, retaining those neighborhood feels and not having something stuck in the middle of something that doesn't fit.
Right, exactly. So, may or may not be a tough question. The town is becoming more and more democratic in philosophy. You're an incumbent Republican and extremely well received. And in a time where so much was so difficult to get through and there was so much craziness going on, how do you do that? How are you able to take a Republican philosophy as an incumbent here and what's becoming more democratic of an area and a town and be so successful and well liked? What is it exactly that you're doing that is in the coffee you're drinking?
No, you're nice to say that, and we'll find out next Tuesday if that's true. But it's just being honest with people. I think people, if they know you're willing to listen and engage with them, you're never going to make everybody happy. And I think the response to COVID hit across party lines. I had a lot of people reach out to me because I was getting criticized from people in my own party that they didn't want any masks worn. And we just said we're monitoring, we're going to be safe rather than sorry. We were 10 minutes from the first hot zone in the country in New Rochelle. So we didn't want Greenwich to become one of those hot zones, and it didn't. So our numbers have always been up there, among the highest in the state. Least amount of cases per capita, vaccination rates. So we've done and we've really monitored and we've adjusted our policy. There's some people on the flip side who want, you to be double masked all day long.
Right.
And I don't. Life is short, and we know how to do this now. I think this virus is extinguishing itself right now, but we're ready. We're always ready to adjust policy, and you have to be. But you never want to shut the economy down. You never want people to lose touch. I mean, for the first several weeks in March and into April last year, it was kind of weird, right? Yeah. People were just, the roads were quiet, and one of the good things, people were walking more, which is great. Yeah. But you want. We now know with Zoom we can do these things.
We can do a lot. Yeah.
So that God forbid something happens, I don't think it'll be as much anxiety because we know how to do this. And we did it quickly. And we talked about doing outdoor dining before the pandemic.
Yeah.
And before we even got a chance to focus on it, we had to do it. And we were one of the first towns to do it. I know because I had a lot of my colleagues from around the state had called me saying, how'd you do it so quickly? And I take my hat off to all of our department heads who walked that avenue with me early in the morning in late March last year and saying, we need to do this. And there was a little pushback in some quarters saying, well, there's an emergency, what about a fire truck? And so we did demonstrations early in the morning when no one around, just make sure we can get to everything. We did, and it was one of the most popular things in the last 2 years is outdoor dining.
Yeah. Well, I think that the Greenwich response to a lot of things is always pretty much in the forefront and a leader and an example for a lot of these other towns is the way to do it. That's kudos to you and just the great people here at the town and all the workers here. Going forward, second term, we're getting to the end. November 2nd is the actual election day. Is there anything, I'm coming from the perspective of a real estate broker wanting the market to continue to be so hot and amazing, but not too hot to where we bubble ourselves out and dip all the way down. From a person who's either selling, a person who's buying, or a real estate broker in the middle there, is there anything that you want to tell, your final pitch to them going into this November 2nd election on what you'd like to do? Sure.
Just to continue, talking up Greenwich because it's a great product to sell, and it's a wonderful place to call home, and Is it perfect? No, no town and municipality in the country is. Sure. That's why we do it. I always bring up the Vince Lombardi quote, you always shoot for perfection. You're never going to attain it, but along the way you may catch excellence.
Right.
So we always shoot for up here, knowing that you may not be perfect, but you'll get close. Because if you shoot for just down here, you may just get down here, and you're not really going that far.
Yeah.
And so we're always looking for ways to enhance Greenwich and make it even more of a destination than it is now.
Yeah. So Greenwich Avenue is such a hot spot. And I go down there, I want to go to CFCF Coffee, I want to go to Gingerman, whatever, I want to go down there. And it's always packed, but we're doing things, I believe you're doing things to alleviate that and then going in the future. What are we doing with Greenwich Parking in the future here?
That's a great question. So Greenwich, since I was a kid, Greenwich always had an issue with parking downtown. There wasn't that much of it. So one of the contributing factors to that problem was the fact that we had people who were working on the avenue, employees, would run out and feed the meter.
Yep.
So that's fine, meaning they didn't have to walk very far. But
right.
The problem was that was a spot that could have gone to a customer. And so what we've done is we've opened up a couple hundred spaces right around the avenue in municipal lots, dedicated them to employees, and given them a little bit of a break to get them off the avenue, thus freeing up spaces. And I believe about 126 have taken advantage of it so far. So that's 126 spots that are not being taken up by employees. But we're working on some other creative, out-of-the-box type things to continue that trend where if you want to go down there in the busiest time, say the week before Christmas.
Sure.
I don't want you to turn around and say, I'm done with this place. I've been driving around in circles for an hour. We don't want that. And we're still not where we want to be, but we're heading in the right direction.
And there's ways to alleviate that without doing some of those big
parking structures.
Big parking structures, right?
Yeah. Greenwich, I would never be in favor of a standalone parking structure. What I would like to do is certain places, like maybe on the 95, we have a few RFPs out where we could build some parking into the grade so it doesn't block anything.
Sure.
You could put green space on top. You could do a lot of things. And I've actually have it look better than a surface parking lot that's there now.
Correct.
This is a concrete jungle. So there's ways to get creative, increase parking, but also make increased green space and just make it look a little nicer but more convenient. So we're looking at a lot of things that will certainly help what has been a problem since as long as I can remember.
We talked about this on the podcast, your favorite restaurant to eat down here. You couldn't really answer that because there were so many.
I can give you like 10 if you want.
Yeah, if you want 10.
I can give you my top 3 in Portchester too.
Okay.
Yeah, they're all great. I mean, I love Bellinona. I love Bistro V. Harvest is great. My friend Billy K over at East Elm Oyster Street. Oh God, that is, I literally could walk there, and I do a lot. Right next door to Billy's is Odalise. You have Mix, and then, you have your day places like Mix and Odalise, maybe a day place. Elm Street Oyster, maybe a nighttime. Again, Bistro V, Doro. I hate to leave any out, but they're all so many good restaurants up and down the avenue, and those are the ones that that we actually look. I'm going to mispronounce the name. La Taqueria has great fish tacos when you're going down there on the right-hand side. It's interesting, and there's more coming. There's more coming. Doppio, which is right off the avenue on the corner of East Elm and Mason, is really, really good. But they're all over, and there's more coming.
And what a boom that avenue has seen. It's the people getting back out, eating, having coffee, getting together, and there's something about it now that's become even more special. People really have a destination. I kept seeing CFCF because that's the new hot coffee spot, but it's amazing that it has become the place to go and to have breakfast, and it's like people appreciate those things in the town, and then to have a town like Greenwich that really takes care of its sidewalk and its downtown and really loves the presence of it, I think is great. Are you a big coffee guy?
Tea.
That's right. You mentioned tea.
Tea and kombucha.
Tea and kombucha.
Which kombucha, I don't even think it existed when I was growing up. But I love that. And there's lots of tea, as you said, lots of tea places. And CFCF actually opened another one up on the bottom of the avenue and is opening one up in Riverside.
It did, yeah. So these days, as the weather gets kind of colder and fall starts to set in, your workout regimen starts to change at all? And are you still hiking out there every day?
Hiking stopped until, I'll pick it up again after the election, but I go to the gym every morning between 5 and 7, sometimes a little bit later, depending on my schedule here. But I get to the gym every day, and even on the weekends, I'll go for 2 days. Both days I won't lift weights then, I'll just stretch out, but I get my walk in. But in wintertime, you take the dogs to the beach. I do a lot of hiking with the dogs because there's, it's not hot and there's no ticks really.
Yeah.
There may be, but not as many. But it changes a little bit. In the summertime, you throw the kayak in the pickup truck and you put the dogs in the truck and you go kayak in the Sound.
Yeah.
So there's something, even though I'm a summer guy, not a winter guy.
Sure.
It's the one thing about winter I like is the hiking. And Greenwich is close to a lot of places, but again, if I don't want to drive up to Bear Mountain or down to Bear Mountain, I can, pick between 800 acres of open space.
Sure. Has this you going for the incumbent second term been a lot different of a campaign than the first time?
Oh God, yeah. Last time, I was a state representative, and I actually had more time to knock on doors, where this time you don't. I do, like I went this weekend and knocked on doors, but it's for a few hours and not for 6 hours. And but you're the other times you're actually had event. Yesterday I had to stop doing doors and go and judge a dog. A Howlin' Prowler was called.
It's one of the perks.
Yeah, it was great. it really is. And so being an animal lover, I love things like that. There was a great car show. Hegarty had the car show, Roger Sherman Bowling Park, and I couldn't even get to that.
Yep.
And I wanted to go. I met with the owners on Friday. They were super excited to be coming to Greenwich and having the premier car show on the East Coast there. So that just shows you how much is going on here that I couldn't even get to that.
Yeah.
But I got to say the dogs, no offense to Hegarty, but the dogs took precedence.
Gotcha. Absolutely. Well, Fred, thank you so much for giving us your time. I know you're very, very busy. You have a big election coming up. Where can people find out more information on your campaign, find out more information on you, or find out more information on where and how to vote?
Well, thank you, Mike. I appreciate it. We do have a campaign website, www.fredforfirst, FREDFOR, first.com. Facebook, there's a First Selectman Fred Camillo page, as well as a personal one. There's a Re-elect Fred for First page. There's Instagram, there's Twitter, there's LinkedIn. I think if you just Google and put those things down.
I think he has a TikTok.
I don't even know how to do that. No. I don't think I want to. Or the other Snapchat, I'm not on that. But there's lots of information, but certainly getting out to vote. If you're in Greenwich and you're not sure you're going to be in town on the 2nd, you could actually come to Town Hall, ask for an absentee application ballot. They'll give it to you, fill it out, hand it to them, and then they'll give you a ballot. You can vote right there.
Beautiful. Make sure you guys vote on November 2nd or come in and make sure you do the absentee ballot like Fred said. Fred, good luck.
Thank you, Mike.
And thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Mike.
Best of everything. Thank you.
Always a pleasure.